welcome today in Woburn. We continue our election series, and I'm very excited because the mayor and I have not been sitting down for our normal weekly chats because we've been doing special election episodes. And so I know that we missed each other, Scott. Welcome. I'm glad we're sitting down today.
Thank you, Samantha.
I have a whole bunch of things that I want to talk about, but there has been an incident that happened at the high school. I don't want you to go into specifics, nor would you, but I do think that we just need to acknowledge it. If there's anything that you want to share, we've been in the news and such, anything that you want to share with the community, I wanted to give you the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, you know, as we said to the press, there was an incident. The school department handled it in accordance with their procedures when they were notified by the police of a complaint, and investigation was done. Disciplinary action was taken, and as we stated, it involves minors. So at this point, that's the only information we'll be providing, other than that it is an active investigation.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. You know, we don't often get an opportunity to kind of just take a step back and talk about your many years of service as mayor to us, and your leadership, and sort of, we're always sort of in the news. So this is the great opportunity for us to be able to do that. I thought we'd start our conversation today, Scott, by just, you know, giving you an opportunity to talk a little bit about your leadership style and sort of what you've brought to the office for all these years.
Yeah, I mean, you do learn as you go by, and I think, you know, when we first got in, I had the experience of being on the city council for a number of years, knew the procedure with zoning, special permits, how those are handled, and again, through that experience with the financing end, I got to see the budgets, dealt with all the departments. You know, I took the time to speak to all different department heads about what they do. You know, we dealt with the school budget, a number of capital projects. Also, I had a strong background in business. That was what my degree is in from Providence College. Of course, I obtained a law degree and then had my own practice for a number of years, and I had a very good practice right outside of Woburn Center, and met a lot of people, and had a lot of good times. When I became mayor, due to potential conflicts, that's when I stopped practicing law, but still maintain my law degree, and I am licensed with the bar, so I can practice at any time. But you know, like I said, the big thing is that coming to this office, I had a varied background, which, you know, prepared me to hit the ground running, which of course we did. And you know, I've been here for 12 years and had a number of, I think, great accomplishments, which again were collaborative. And you say, what's my management style? It is a collaborative nature, and you know, we have a lot of talented department heads who really, when you give them a chance, they shine and make a lot of good things happen, which has in the past. I certainly have learned from my experiences, you know, how to handle different situations. And you know, initially when I maybe first did them, it wasn't always the best, but I think you do learn, and you know, it's been a great experience.
I'm glad you said 12 years, because in my head it was 10. So duly noted correction for myself. You know, there is value in continuity, right? As you look over being in office for 12 years, talk to us about some of the benefit that you've seen in the duration of time that you've helped lead the city.
Well, you know, one of the things that we always point to, we've completed a number of very important infrastructure projects. I'll start with that. And also at the same time, we've managed to stabilize our finances, increase our reserves, and really bring the city from a financial perspective that we've never been. As I say, I'm very proud of. And again, it's working with the department heads and working with the financial team to achieve a AAA bond rating, which is the highest bond rating that you can get, financial bond rating, the financial rating you can get from the rating agencies. And again, we came from really a much lower rating, but through our conservative budgeting, concentrating on increasing the reserves, which, you know, basically the rainy day fund, We've got to a point where the rating agencies looked at us, looked at the stability of the operations, and have awarded us with a AAA bond rating. And through that, we've been able to do some great projects. The borrowing costs, of course, when you have a AAA bond rating, that affects what your rates are when you borrow, and you save taxpayer money. And when I first became mayor, there were 3 projects that we were focusing on. One was the building of the Earl Wyman School, which was a combination of 2 older schools, the library, which had fallen into somewhat disrepair and had been talked about for well over 50 years to be built, and no one was able to get it done until I became mayor, and we worked with the different stakeholders to come to an agreement on how we would get it done, and the finances. And we got that done after 50 years that it had been talked about and never completed. And also the fire station, the central fire station was another one. And that one, as you know, is under construction now. The steel will be delivered at the end of October, and you'll see some real movement there. But that's another project that people joke about, but not joke about it. It took years for that project to get completed or even started. And again, it was through working with first Chief Adgate, now Chief Kenton, and the City Council in determining how we would get this done. And one of the things is that we have been able to spread these projects out over time, because it'd be great to say, let's get them all done at once, but you can't do that, one, because of financing, and 2, the budget just couldn't handle it. So those are 3 really important projects that I'm proud of, and I think everybody involved in them is very proud of. And of course, Samantha, one of the things that we always say is we want to make Woburn a better place, or an attractive place for people to live, raise a family, start a business. And there are a number of things that go into that. It's providing the amenities like good schools, the library, which is really important, I think, to people coming in, and of course, open space and recreation. And again, working with the City Council, as mayor, I've worked with the City Council. We've actually purchased more open space than all the mayors before me. Whispering Hill, which you may be familiar with, that's on Cambridge Road. At one point, Samantha, that was targeted for 600 unit apartment building, a 40B project from Armstrong. And, we worked with Northeastern to buy that, well over 60 acres of land. And now there's walking trails back there, and there's a great soccer field and lacrosse field. So that's a really good thing for the city. Again, it adds to the recreation, the open space, and more open space. We recently, as you know, working with Demoulas, who generously donated 14 acres of open space. So we're adding open space to the city, despite what some people say. We are actually adding, and we've added more open space to the city's holdings than it's probably ever done. So we're really proud of that. And again, I say that in working with the City Council, I can't do that by myself. We've got a very collaborative City Council that I work well with, and they work well with me. So those are things that happen over time. My management style has adjusted, and we're getting some really good things done for the city.
That's awesome. Thank you. I mean, the library just happens to be one of my favorite places just in the city in terms of the history and the building. It's just such a beautiful part of our city. We're so lucky to have that. One of the things that I think, tell me if you're wrong, but I think it would be a fair characterization to say one of the things that you are very passionate about and you invest a lot of time in is making sure, as we're deciding capital investments in infrastructure, you're very cautious about how we're doing it, making sure we're planning that, right? The library took some time to get there because I assume, I don't want to put words in your mouth, you wanted to make sure we had it fully funded before we broke in and can do it right. Talk a little bit more about, as you look forward, the things that you think are prioritized. The fire station's happening, so sort of put that aside for the moment. But what if you could prioritize the next most important capital investments in infrastructure we deserve as a city? What do you think they should be?
Well, a good question. And like you said, when we look at the debt that we can take on and the capital projects that we're going to be comfortable with completing, and then ultimately asking the taxpayers to pay for it, because we don't do since the high school, which is a massive project, we haven't done debt exclusions or debt overrides. So we're, building it into the budget, and that's how we look at things. But we have both a 5-year capital plan, and we also work off a 5-year projection of revenues and expenses. And we, that takes into account, where we think salaries are going, where we think health insurance is going, pensions, and some of those things, Samantha, as you know, you can't control the expense. And the revenues that we bring in, we're constrained by how much we can raise under Prop 2.5. So there's only a certain amount of money that we can raise each year and spend. So we look over 5 years to see where our revenues are, where our expenses are, and then we'll plug in projected debt service, for instance, for the purchase of land, building a new playground, any of that stuff, the schools, the library. We plug that in to say, yeah, we can handle that, or no, we need to wait. And that's what it takes, and that's why, again, we've been awarded a AAA bond rating, because we are very conservative in our budgeting, and that goes a long way. But when you talk about projects that we're excited about, we're particularly excited about projects that we're not paying for, right? So
bring it on, bring them.
Yeah,
I'm all
bring
about
those,
other people paying for our stuff.
on the grant ones, and again, it's been a long time coming, and a lot of department heads have been involved in this, but we finally obtained $25 million from the MPO to help us build the new Boston Street Bridge, which is a massive win for the city. And again, these are projects that people have been talking about since 1990, and we're getting them done. And it takes perseverance, and it takes a lot of talent, and that's what we have in city government. So really proud about that. And it's gonna take traffic off some of the heavily trafficked roads in North Woburn. It'll help really serve, I say, as an economic engine for the new Boston Street and the Commerce Way Overlay District. And we're really going to see the benefits of that in the coming years. That's a good project, again, as I say, because we're not paying for it. We do have to pay the land takings, which were well in excess of $1 million, and there's some construction oversight that we're paying too. So those will be costs. But one project that people are talking about, and it does seem to be lingering, is the widening of the Montville Ave project. And that is, that's a $5 million project, again, that the state is paying for. And that'll, when it's finished, the widening will be great. It'll alleviate some traffic, but COVID struck, and COVID has set back has caused some delays. So we're just asking the residents over there to be patient, because it is sometimes a rough ride heading in and out of Boston, but that's going to be a great project when it's finished this summer.
Anything we can do to alleviate traffic is always a plus for people, right? And then there's construction around that. So we talk a little bit about some of the durability in office and the things that it's allowed you to do from an infrastructure standpoint. And as you even mentioned early in our discussion, things don't stay the same. You've continued to grow and change and evolve throughout the office. Talk to us a little bit about how you look at things differently now than perhaps when you were a first-time mayor.
Well, I mean, it's in 12 years we've come a long way with with technology and the implementation of technology. When I started as mayor, we didn't have a technology department. I say we had Andy Crean, who was he was a jack of all trades, but he's the chief appraiser, and we asked him. He had been the part-time, had a stipend to run the technology department, and that. Right now, if can you imagine running with the technology department with a part-time stipend? I mean, we've come light years, and that's a big change. So, our tech department is grown from just a stipend position, who was very good, to 3 full-timers, and that's a big change in where we're going, because as the technology has hit all corners of the government, and even more so, Samantha, with COVID, where we recognized how important it was to be able to offer, the residents access to City Hall without actually coming in. So we're working on expedited permitting, where you can do the permitting right up through the city's website. We're talking about digitizing all our documents, which, again, when you digitize the documents, you have a system in place where people can, instead of calling and saying, hey, can I have the records to the city council meeting? you'll go right to the city's website, you'll push a button and you can get access to any documents you want. So really people want access, they want it now. And technology is really become a big part of city government.
I worked for Iron Mountain for a very small amount of time, a little bit less than a year. And I learned a lot about paper archiving and electronic digitization and things during that time. So I appreciate the value and the work that goes into doing that. It's, it's not just a matter of scan a bunch of documents. You've got to put security protections around it and workflows and all the other things that go with that. So thanks for sharing that with me. Was there ever a time that you considered leaving Woburn? I mean,
No,
like, why would you
no.
ask such a question? I'm always curious because I always say I didn't grow up here, but I chose here, right? Like but I'm always curious for folks who have been here for such a long time.
I look at Woburn's a great place to live. I went to school here, went to the Taki School, which is no longer here. I graduated Woburn High School. My wife was a couple of years younger than me. I didn't know her at the time, but we ended up getting together, and she went to Woburn School Systems, graduated. My children got great educations. 4 of them went through the Woburn school system. No, I mean, I couldn't think of any other place to live. I mean, I would like to travel a little bit more when I at some point retire, but I think Woburn's a great place, and there's so many good people here that I couldn't really see living anywhere else.
I mean, what would you do with all the orange ties and things if you left Woburn, right?
They look pretty good anyway. So.
They do. It is a good color, I have to say. It is a good color. One of the things that I'm sure you reflect on is you look back at, capital investment plans and things that we hoped and envisioned, and they change, right? Priorities change. You talked about some really great investments we've made as a city and things. I'm sure there's things that we haven't been able to accomplish in the time frame we hope. Let's talk about some of those things that didn't progress as you would like, and how you think about them and where they are in the priority moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to say I think that we have got down. We've accomplished a lot of what I had set out to do, and we're still in the process of. As I said, completing the fire station, getting the new Boston Street Bridge off the ground. Those are major projects. But, the past 2 years, Samantha, you and I know this because we've been dealing with it, but my term started in January of 2020. And we had all, plans to get all things done. And then COVID hit. And COVID really threw a curveball to all of us in how we operated, because this is something we were never used to. The government had shut down, although one of the things I'm very proud of is that in the city of Woburn, City Hall never closed. We continue to provide services to our residents. But, over the past 16 months, 18 months, a lot of our focus was strictly on COVID and how we would comply with restrictions, how would we keep our residents safe. And how we would keep schools going. And the schools did a fantastic job. I mean, I met with Matt Crowley and continue to meet with him, but we met, almost daily talking about, things that we needed to do for the students. And I could tick off a list of things that we became, pretty good at that I never would have thought when that term started. I mean, we were doing, testing clinics, weekly testing clinics for our residents, for our employees. We did vaccine clinics. We were providing, free food and free lunches for our students, for our elderly. The list goes on. In things we were asked to do, and it just changed things. So yeah, if things did get set back somewhat, or we weren't able to get some of the smaller projects done that we wanted to, I would have to say it's somewhat, understandable. And I think if you talk to any other mayor or town manager, they're going to tell you that it was COVID, and it was COVID. Every day you say, hey, what's going on? We'd have webinars, multiple webinars with mayors groups. The governor was on every week. We'd have a meeting with the governor. So it became COVID. And, we have gotten past that, which is good. We're moving on, I think, to normalcy and to adapting to COVID in our community. So, yeah, I mean, I think that was one thing we never expected, and
it's probably worth pointing out some of the things that we had to do required very different. Like if you look at our health department, for example, right? They were never staffed to do the kinds of things that they have been doing. And correct me if I'm wrong, we didn't add staff through any of this, correct? We just did.
No.
Right.
So no, and you make a great point. The Board of Health, they were somewhat prepared for a pandemic. That's what they get together and talk about the pandemic that everybody thought would never come, and it finally did come. But as you said, we didn't add any staff. They worked longer hours. They worked weekends. They were doing contact tracing, and it was a lot of work to ask for them. But they really stepped up. School nurses stepped up too. I mean, they were asked to do things that they've never done, and I think it's all working out, and it's been quite an experience.
Probably one you hoped you never had, right? As many folks. One of the consequences of the pandemic has been a really depressed business environment for certain types of businesses. Not all businesses are affected, but certainly a lot of folks in the service industry. And even though people are going back into restaurants and doing those things, they're having a really hard time securing staff at the volume that they desire. I know there are some things we've done as a city to help support that. Let's talk about those things and talk about additional measures you think might be appropriate to put in place moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, it has been a difficult time for the businesses. Unfortunately, some of the smaller businesses will go out and they will not be able to recover from the losses they sustained. Some of the things that the city has done, for the restaurants, remember we worked on expedited permitting to get them outdoor dining when they desperately needed to open their doors and have some type of income coming in. So, working with the planning department, the building inspector, the licensing commission, and the city council, we were able to quickly grant streamlined permits for restaurants to dine outdoors, whether it was on their own property or even using sidewalk property downtown, which was well received at the time. I think that was a great help. We were able to do a small microloan program for businesses, loans under $10,000. And of course, we were, really the state stepped in big time with the Payroll Protection Act, which saved a number of, our businesses. And that was key. But one of the things that I really am proud of, and I think the city council is too, is that when we were setting the tax rate last year, there was we had a reduction in revenue, and we reached into our reserves and used $3.5 million of city money to reduce the tax rate. And really what that did, it resulted in about a 70 cents per thousand savings on the tax for businesses and about 25 on the residents. So it saved a lot of money for people at the time while they were struggling, and they're still struggling. And you can never do enough, but I mean, I think that was, when we took 3.5 million of our own money and spread that across the hurt that our residents and our business were feeling, I think it was something the council, every member of the council, myself, are very proud of.
I want to preface this question by saying I have been very fortunate that for the more than a year, you have sat down almost every week and had a conversation with us. And you've answered every question that I've asked. You don't always have an answer, but you've answered every question that I've asked. And in most cases, you had an answer. And I did not prep you for those questions. Occasionally, there would be something that I knew you might have to ask another department, so I might say, hey, we might talk about this topic. But for the most part, you showed up and you answered everything that I was curious about. And the questions that would come to me that I would share. Having said that, I think there's still a sentiment across the city overall, not just in the mayor's office, but across the the city, that sometimes it's a little bit of a club and we don't have as much transparency around things as people would like. If you're not from Woburn, you don't know who to ask, you're not, don't know, and you're not connected to certain people, you don't always know stuff. I'm curious to get your feedback on whether you think that's a fair criticism that folks are making, and if it is, how we might be willing to address it. And if it's not, what are folks who are struggling to get that transparency, what more can they do to help close that gap?
Well, one of the things, Samantha, you can't stop people from feeling the way they do, but ever since I've been mayor, my door is always open, and I think people who will come up here are surprised when they come up here, and they'll walk in and my door's open and they can come, right in. It might not be, instantaneously, but if I'm on the phone, if they're usually able to see me the day that they come in and get an answer to their questions. It might not be, what the answer they want to hear, but I'm always available to talk to somebody. I think that's, anybody who knows that that's something that my door is always open. But for the people who feel that they can't get answers, that, all I can tell you is if they're listening now, then, you can call my office or you can come in at any time. There's parking in City Hall. I'd be happy to talk to you. And that's how I've operated since I've been mayor. And also, we do have a website, and I think the website, all meetings are posted. So I know that shouldn't be an issue with people, but again, if sometimes people feel that way, that's the only thing I could say to them. If they're listening, or if you know who they are, then tell them you got something to say, or you've got a question or concern or complaint, come down to my office.
Thanks for that. I want to talk about, we talked a little bit about priority investments earlier. One of the investments we're being asked to make is in support of Northeast Metro Tech. So for those who aren't aware, that is the technical high school that is our public school option in Woburn. It isn't run by the Woburn School Committee. It is a separate entity. It supports 12 or 14 or 15, a bunch of cities. Yeah. I have had a student there though, and the building is definitely in desperate need of updating from a parent's point of view. And we are one of many cities in fact. Some cities have said, yes, we're going to pay. Many have not responded. Where are we in terms of, as a city, looking at supporting that? What is the process we're going through, and when do we anticipate being able to respond to the request?
Yeah, good question. So we have approximately 114 students from Woburn who attend the Voc, and you and I have talked about it because your son went there, and the condition of that Voc is pretty bad. The new school costs about $317 million. After the MSBA, our share is 27 million, but after the MSBA's prorated share, we're down to about 15. Our annual debt service would be 900,000. I sent a letter down to the city council last Thursday, with a proposed order approving the city's, giving the city's approval. Now, the deadline to act on that is November 8th. So like I said, the council will have their first reading on that Tuesday. And the way it works, Samantha, is if you don't vote on it, then it's assumed that you've approved it. But I don't, that's not the best way to do it. You want to have it. We'll be having a hearing with the city council. They'll be able to, talk about the pros and cons. But I fully support that. I think that it's really important to have a strong vocational education, and those types of jobs that our students are being prepared for, the skills that they're getting from the vocational school are clearly going to lead them to strong, good-paying jobs that are in demand now, and as we know, will be in demand in the future. With topics like advanced manufacturing, your traditional plumbers, electricians, all those jobs are so important to this economy, and really, I think it's expensive. It's going to cost us about $900,000, but I think it's worth it. And if I could just digress just a little bit, if one of the communities, I think there are 12 communities that are in the Voc district, if only one of them votes no, then it goes to a popular vote of all the people in those communities that make up the district. And what I'm hearing is that not Everett, they're not in the district, Chelsea, because they send the most students there, I think they're going to vote against it, and rightfully so. The debt that they'd assume from this would probably crush them. So they're going to vote against it, and it'll be a vote of the popular people. So everybody in the city will have an opportunity to vote for it. But my support of the vocational school, even in the city, I have a proven track record of supporting all the new buildings that we've had built, and you can see all the elementary schools that have been built, and I've had a say in pretty much every one of them, and I'm proud of that record that I have. Also, as far as support of the schools, one of the things that bothers me the most is this misconception that the schools are chronically underfunded, which is not the truth at all. And in fact, if you go back over the past 8 years, the average increase of the school's budget, the city of Woburn school budget, has been over 4%. In addition to that 4%, the average that we give them on an annual basis for capital improvements, Samantha, for whether it's green improvements in the building, or if they need to fix a classroom, or if they have a boiler issue, anything like that, we've been averaging about $500,000 a year that we give them in capital in addition. And that doesn't even get to, the bigger capital items like roofs that we've done over. So my support of the schools, it's proven. There is a misconception. And again, if anybody wants to talk to me about the funding of the schools and about the over 4% that we give, I'd be happy to talk to them. We're also, about 30% over the net school spending figure. That's the minimum that the state sets. We're 30% over that figure that they've established, almost 30%. So, and again, that's something that we've worked on with the school committee over the years. We've worked on with the city council, and we've all worked, to come to those numbers. And those numbers, Samantha, over the past 4 years have allowed us, and you've seen it over the past 4 years, we've added over 50 new positions to the school department, new positions that hadn't existed. And that was through a collaborative process between my office, the school committee, city council, and of course, Matt Crowley. And we've added assistant principals, we've added curriculum coordinators, we've added music teachers, art teachers, psychologists, EL teachers, you name it. We have done it. And that's through the strong support, both of my office, the city council, school committee, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm proud of the commitment that we've shown to the school department.
Thank you for elaborating on that. I appreciate that. One of the things that always keeps in mind is the nature of the VOC is their older students have internships and co-ops, and maybe there's a way to do some of that service exchange and coordinate with them and get some more, particularly Woburn students who are looking for co-ops, but even other cities who connect to some of their businesses who are looking for people to work. So who knows? Maybe there'll be an opportunity for us to do some things there, but it could be interesting. I know. There's lots of great skills that are being learned there, as well as at Woburn High, right? There's some other different types of programs there as well. One of the things that is you talked earlier about sort of keeping the tax rate manageable for us, which is incredible. At the same time, property values are increasing, so the number of tax dollars that some of our residents are paying and cost for services and things has gone up, even though we remain a pretty affordable city compared to many of our neighbors. What are some of the things that we will do or you envision doing to make sure that we continue to keep Woburn as affordable as possible for residents?
Well, I mean, you make a good point that costs are always going up, and city government's not immune to them. There are some costs that you can't control. I mean, pensions you can't control. Health insurance costs can continue to go up and will go up. There are certain things you can tweak with health insurance, but there's always a cost, whether it's to the employees or to the city. So we're sensitive to that. How that plays out. But but by and large, costs do go up, and one of the things that you look at, we have been able to maintain the lowest tax rate in the surrounding community. There's not a community around us that has a lower tax rate, and we've done that again through careful planning and careful budgeting. But moving forward, there are other items that we will have to look at, if we want to keep containing costs that are that keep going up.
I want to talk about one of the services that we have in Woburn that is different than many of our other neighbors, is sort of what I would call unlimited trash. Now, that's not a completely accurate statement because there's limitations of what you can put in household trash. But I can have 50 barrels. As my husband will tell you, I often fill many of the 10 that we have. I don't know what it is about me, but apparently I create a lot of recycling and trash. One of the things that lots of people have talked about, we have recycling every other week, and we don't have a local hazardous waste option. The current option for hazardous waste is a bit of a drive for most folks. How are decisions made about that? Is that a cost issue? If it's not a cost issue, what are the other factors that might determine if we could move to weekly recycling, as an example?
Well, the two issues are a little bit different. Like the hazardous waste, like you say, that has become more of an issue lately. We were working with Lexington, and that had become an option that we were doing, that our residents were taking advantage of. Recently, it's been stopped, and I think the closest that you can go is maybe Braintree. But we do have some services that it's certainly not all encompassing, but we have we do pick up people's tires, not pick them up, but we have a spot for tires, batteries. Of course, there's a recycling group, the Maderos, who provide the recycling for the white goods, they say, and we're actually this week we're doing the shredded event, which is for documents, and gives people a sense of security that they can shred the docs and no one sees them. But the question that you have, Samantha, is twofold. One is with hazardous material, and then the recycling. The hazardous material we are looking into. There is a cost associated with that, which the question is, how would we pick that? How would we be picking that up? Just pick it up through our trash contract and add that to the budget, or would be having residents pay? We haven't decided how we're going to do that. There's also an option. We try to become a member community of one of the providers around us, such as Lexington. We don't know how that's going. Maybe Burlington as well. I think they do it. But the recycling, again, trash is, as you said, it's almost unlimited. And I think sometimes our residents, expect that. They put out, like you said, you could go out, you could put your, you could put your whole house out, for God's sake, and the trash would pick it up. So, when you see tenants move out, they're putting all their trash out, and we're taking it. So that there are some things there that we probably need to be looking at for a number of reasons. One, for the environment, and two, for the cost. So that's something we will be looking at. Recycling, right now, I think, right now the recycling once a week is twice a week is okay. We're not getting too many complaints about that. And as you know, Samantha, that the policy that China instituted about 4 years ago, that Golden Sword, I think was the name of it, where they basically stopped taking all our recyclables, and that made really the cost of recycling more than the cost of regular trash. So it was a disincentive for the city to be really pushing on recycling. But it's starting to come around now. We're starting to see that there is more of a market. So we will be looking at the recyclables a little bit more going forward too. But there is an overall picture about the environment. And I know Maine passed it, which I think is a great law, where the manufacturer of the product is responsible for the product from inception to its grave. So they'd have to pick it up that's part of it. That's great for recycling.
That's an interesting solution to it. I actually don't know very much about that. I know what I'm going to go look up this weekend. I'm going to go because you've got me curious now.
It's a great law. What's that?
Generally speaking, Woburn is a safe community, right? We are generally safe, but like everywhere, We do have crime. We recently had a robbery at Market Basket. That was something recent. Um, if you look at our current police department in terms of equipment, facilities, safety things, training, do you feel that they're equipped for the move forward? Obviously, they're equipped for now, but as we look forward, are we going to need to make additional investments? And if so, what kinds of things should we be thinking about?
Right now, I think that the police department is well equipped, and the chief would tell me if they're not. They have, they have the tasers, they have the vests. We turn over the vehicles, every year. We've invested now in the hybrids. Those are the hybrid package where they have the 4-wheel drive, the Explorer package. So we try to make sure that they have great vehicles. They have the best equipment that they need to stay safe in the training as well, which is very important. And the chief and I, talk all the time. He's probably over here 3 times a week. We have a standing meeting on Monday to talk about what's happened over the weekend. If there's anything serious that I need to know or that has happened. And he's a great chief. We've been lucky to have good chiefs all along, but Chief Rufo does a great job. And maybe one of the things going forward, we will be looking at is, adding members to the police force at some time. We'll look at the calls, look at some of the development that's come along, and we'll see what comes of it from there.
You may not know this, but I'm going to ask because it came up the other day. Do our officers carry Narcan? Do you know?
No, they don't.
Okay. Do you know, is that, I assume that's not a budget decision. Is there?
No, not at all. It's more of more of a bargaining issue.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that. That's helpful. I won't ask you to answer more because it's a bargaining issue. So we won't go into the details there, but that is helpful to know. You have had the luxury of, you may not feel it's a luxury, you may feel it's a sacrifice, but the luxury of being in office for a long time. And that means you've had an opportunity to envision things for our city, help make them happen. As you look forward, what do you see as your vision for Woburn? I don't know, let's say 5 years from now or 10 years from now.
Well, the biggest thing going forward for me really is the sustainability, and I think we've done a real good job with that as a green community. But really, the city's carbon footprint is something that I'm really interested in, and like I said, we've made a number of investments that have helped to reduce that. But we can do more and definitely need to do more. I mean, we're changing our fleet over to hybrids and electric vehicles. I think you see all of our street lights are LED. We've got a number of solar projects that really help the city not only save money, but again, help lower the carbon footprint. We've invested in initiatives in the school and city buildings with LEDs in our offices, wall-mounted heat pumps, which are both, they save the money for electricity and gas. So I think the biggest thing going forward would be getting the city's sustainability enhanced even more.
I know that you are going to not want to dispel budget for a moment. I'm going to ask you to sort of wave a magic wand and take budget considerations out of your thought right now. If we magically had a grant that allowed you to fund 2 new positions at City Hall, what would those positions be?
So the two positions that I think are important, and we kind of hit on this earlier, is our the efforts in our plan to digitize all of our documents, and then have those documents available in an orderly way for our residents, because that's what it's really there for. The documents are public records, and also so there's easy access for both residents and city employees. So in order to really spearhead that effort, I would like to have somebody as oversee that. which would almost be an adjunct again to the technology department, but that's a very important position going forward for us because we're kind of in the maiden stages of that. We received a grant. We did receive a grant from the state for $60,000 to get moving on that, and we appropriated another 60 in a match. So we're starting that. We've hired a company to scan our documents. That's SHI, and that would be the position that I would like to fund. And we probably will do it without a grant. It's going to be one of those important positions. The other one is an economic development position, and that's something that we find is really important, not only with the efforts that we're going to need to start revitalizing downtown, because it's taken a real hit. The smaller businesses have taken a hit down there, so we need some help down there, and also with the continued development of New Boston Street and Commerce Way. I think we want to start inviting the right types of businesses down there. We're getting a lot of strong feelers from biotech companies, technology companies, and those are the types of businesses that you envision to supplement some of the residential that's been seems like that's what people are putting in, requesting to have put down there as residential. But the next step is really to have those businesses that around there that work together well.
I want to talk about housing for a minute. We have certainly have a number of new developments that are bringing in, condominiums and apartments and things. But if we look at affordable housing for portions of our community, we have a long list for senior housing as an example. First-time home buyers. It's the cost has gone up in Woburn as it has in many communities. What's the right balance for us as a city in terms of managing affordable housing and making sure that the folks who want to continue to live here can afford to continue to live here?
Well, it's a good question. One of the things that we've been trying to do, and I think we are successful at, is creating a housing production plan. So we with the help from the city council, we created a housing production plan, and the housing production plan was an attempt to get us over that 10% threshold where you have affordable, 10% of your housing stock should be affordable. So, we created the housing production plan, and we worked on bringing in the affordable housing units that would get us to 10%. So at that time we could, say we have enough housing, we're at 10%. If you want to come in, then you've got to come to us and deal with us. So we've got to that 10%, and we did that by, like I said, creating a housing production plan, and we had two developments in particular to help us get over that. One was a friendly 40B, which is down off of Presidential Way. That's by the Marriott and the Boston Sports Club. So that was one of the projects that we worked with under the housing production plan. The other one was at the Woburn Mall, where we created a 40R district, and we gave them a number of units in the development, and all of them were counted towards affordability. So that was another one that helped us. And of course, the Woburn Mall, I know a lot of people had great memories of the Woburn Mall, Samantha, but and it was really at one time a great place to go, but it had it had outlived its life.
It was a sad death. I will say it for you, Scott.
Yeah, but it was really, in its day, it was great. It had some great places. I think all of us, went to Sports Authority and some of the other shops over there, but it has passed away. And I think the development over there served two purposes. It revitalized the shopping district and gave us some affordable housing units. So that's where we are on that. I don't know if I quite answered your question, but
no, I think you did it. You shared how you're thinking about it. I mean, I think here's the challenge. Affordable units and some of those things aren't very affordable to a lot of people in our community, right? They're less than the other units, but still at a pretty big premium. And I think that's a challenge that we face as a community, as many do. So thanks for sharing.
It is also a state. It's also a state challenge, and I know you hear from Governor Baker how many units they want to create, but even the affordable units in the project, or, you know, for instance, it's 18 for 2-bedroom. I think it's $1,800 for 2-bedroom, 2-bedroom unit at the old Woburn Mall site. So that's expensive, 1,800. And then the market rate are up over $3,000. So, you know, it's a hot market.
Yeah.
Hot market.
I'm glad I bought my house 25 years ago. I feel fortunate for that. I know you feel passionate about being active, right? You run a lot. I see you participate in a lot of the sporting events in the city and things and support those activities. We all know after the pandemic, for many of us, myself included, where activity went way down, right? You know, we became very dormant, the challenges that brings for us and such. As you look forward at the services that we offer as a city to encourage, you know, physical and mental well-being, what are some of the things that have you excited, whether that's the senior center or the library or Woburn Rec or any of the other programs that you think about?
I think you mentioned the really good. The recreation department provides, you know, recreation to all ages. You know, the service they provide to the children is I think second to none. They do a great job. Rory and Brian are great with the recreation. For the elders, the seniors, it is important to keep them moving. And you know, down at the senior center, which is, you know, coming out of COVID a little slower because of the, you know, the age of people. They're big on getting people active. We're now putting in 2 pickleball courts at the senior center. They're in the process of doing that now. We should have 2 pickleball courts opened in April or May, which will be great for the seniors. And then, you know, recreation's a big part of it, but as you mentioned, the library too, it's really important to keep your mental awareness sharp, and almost as important as probably as important, maybe more than your physical. The two, you can't have one without the other. You know, as you age, you realize that you know, mental acuity and physical fitness go hand in hand. And you know, I just talked to Hermaine today. We meet every Monday. She comes over. We talk about what's going on in the library, and she's really excited the book club's going back again, and that's a great thing because, you know, you see some of the it's all ages, but there's seniors coming out, and it's great to see them take advantage. My mother goes to the book club, and she goes with a couple of friends, so they enjoy it, and it's great for the mind. So physical and mental are really important, and I think we're doing a good job in the city. Could we do more? Absolutely.
One of the other things that we see, you know, just a sad amount of in the city is drug addiction. Clearly not a Woburn problem. That is, you know, a Massachusetts and probably nationwide challenge. We have a number of education programs that we run. Are there additional things that you see us as a city being able to do to help families coping with drug addiction, or those who are in fact looking for help to break their own addictions?
Again, that's a question you can never do enough, Samantha, but I think the job of the city is really to do the outreach and have the system in place to make sure people who need help are getting it, and if they need a bed, to get them a bed or things like that. So I think, you know, the system's in place in the city. Can you do more? Again, it's the same thing. You absolutely can do. It's just a question of, I think the city's role is to do the outreach, do the awareness in the schools, do the awareness in the community, and have resources that you can direct people to get them help when they need it.
Last question I want to ask you today. So, and we've discussed this before. You know, when we look across our city, there's a lot of diversity by all different kinds of things: sexual orientation, gender, income, cultural backgrounds, race. You know, many political points of view. Lots and lots of diversity, which is, you know, something that I never want to take for granted. I think that's great. Our government, across our government, right, our boards or commissions or city council, you know, sort of, you know, just doesn't fully reflect the diversity that's in our community today. What are some of the things that you hope to be able to do to make sure that we are reflective of the ideas and different points of view and different backgrounds in our residents?
Well, we are very receptive, and I think from knowing me over the past couple of years, that when somebody has a cause or somebody wants to do something in the community, whether it's on the steps of City Hall or out on the Common, we've been very receptive and have embraced the LBGQT movement. We've done Pride Month. We've embraced that and understand the diversity in the city of all walks, like you said, whether it's cultural, sexual orientation, whatever it is, we've been open to it. We had the flag for the Indian flag raising. We was very supportive of the Juneteenth and embraced that and try to serve our role is that when people have something that they're looking to do, we're open to it and realizing that the community is very diverse. That's I think the goal of government. As far as filling boards and positions, we don't advertise positions generally. That we have board members on there, and when a position opens up, look to fill it. And there is a sense that some of the boards we could put out for advertising. I think the most recent fillings we did for the handicap, we put together a pretty good board. So we're looking into it.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Scott, thank you for your time. You've been very generous answering a whole bunch of questions that I had, as well as community members had raised. Is there anything else you'd like voters to know as we get very close to Election Day?
Yeah, I'd urge people that if they have any questions before the election to certainly give me a call. I'd be happy to answer any questions they have. To serve as mayor has been a privilege. It's a great job. I'm asking every voter to consider me when they go in to vote, and I'm asking every voter to vote for me on Election Day, or if they vote early, to please vote for me as mayor. I work hard, and I don't take this position for granted. I love representing the city, and I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, very much. And Woburn, as always, please continue to take good care of each other.